Franchising is the most misunderstood and most overlooked form of entrepreneurship. We're here to educate you and help you find the entrepreneur within. Franchising is not all about the French fries.
We find that individuals who are exploring business ownership tend to have a lot of misperceptions and misunderstandings about the franchise industry. So what we want to do is help prospective business owners make confident and educated decisions before moving forward or not moving forward with a business. Welcome to Unpredicted Entrepreneur.
Welcome to episode 60 of Unpredicted Entrepreneur. My name is Sara Waskow, and I am joined by my colleague, Roxanne Rapske. And we created this podcast to bring to you all things franchising and business ownership related. And we love having guests join us and share their stories with us. And our guest today is David Bitan. And David is the founder and brand president of Bumble Roofing. And Bumble Roofing is a new brand that FranNet has started working with recently. And we met and learned about them at our recent conference last month. And so we thought it was an interesting story, and we wanted to share the story with you. So David, thanks for taking time out of your busy day and joining us on Unpredicted Entrepreneur today.
Of course. Thanks y'all for having me.
Absolutely. So let's just kind of dive right in. We thought that you really had an interesting background and kind of an interesting story about kind of how Bumble Roofing evolved. So just kind of start off telling us what happened back in 2007, 2008 with your family.
Yeah. So back in 2007, 2008, just like most families across America and the world, I was brought up in a very well-off family. No matter what we wanted, me and my sister growing up, we got, I grew up really not having a strong work ethic because of that. And 2007, 2008, my family lost everything, just like a lot of other families did. We lost our home, cars started getting repoed. And for me, that was really a sense of, of urgency and really a breakthrough. Although I could have looked at it as a curse and played the victim, it was really one of the biggest blessings in my life, because that's really where I started getting that work ethic. So immediately, at the age of 19, after spending a year in college up in Santa Barbara, I moved back to Los Angeles and decided to get into commission sales in the home service and commercial service space.
Yeah. So commission sales is one of those things. If you don't work, you don't eat, right?
Exactly.
So that is definitely a motivator. I thought it was interesting that you had shared that you had everything until you didn't, right? And that your parents had struggled when they were children, their families had struggled. And so they had made a commitment to provide for you guys everything you needed. But then to your point, you didn't really have the work ethic. And it's interesting because our last guest, she was raised working as a migrant farmer and started doing that at age 10. So people's stories are just really kind of intriguing. So you started commission sales and the home service business. Did you drop out of college?
Yeah. So I went to college not really knowing what I wanted to do. Being that I come from an entrepreneurial background, with my dad just, starting businesses on his own, I always had that at front of mind. So I went to school, dropped out after a year, moved back to Los Angeles. And a family friend of mine actually got me into the home service space as an in-home commission sales guy. He was working for a company, had a great training program. And within a couple of weeks, this 19-year-old kid is out there selling kitchen remodels and roofs and pools and you name it. And, I was doing absolutely phenomenal. And over the course of about 6 years, I started noticing that most of the companies I worked for had profits over people. And for me, I'm a people's person. I like to sleep at night and get a good night to sleep. And, I like to make a difference in people's lives. I'm obviously, we're not a nonprofit organization over here with Bumble, but we put our people first. And when I say our people, I'm not just talking about our employees and our subcontractors. I'm talking about our customers, right? So most of these companies I worked for, because they put profits over people, customers ended up having horrible experiences, which resulted in me having a lot of missed sales opportunities, upset customers, not very sustainable, right? So I was hopping around from company to company. I wouldn't say all, but the majority of the companies that I worked for in the home service and commercial service space really just had the same values. They didn't really care what happened to their brand. They didn't really care about the customers. So in 2015, I decided to just, really take it on my own and start my own business. So 2015, I launched my first business. We started off as a roofing and solar company. Within 2 months, being that I provided a great service for my customers would start calling back and asking, hey, can you help us out with windows? Can you help us out with a kitchen remodel? And being that I had that experience, I'm like, why not? So eventually that turned into a complete A through Z home remodeling company. At our peak, excuse me, we had about 14 in-home sales guys, all commission based. Now that led me back to where I was before with in-home commission sales guys. Although some of them did have the customer at front of mind, most of them had profits in their pockets at front of mind. And that resulted, again, in bad customer experiences, upset customers, and just missed sales opportunities for future referrals. So after visiting a seminar in 2018, with about 150 other home service companies throughout the U.S., I noticed a couple of things, but one of the main things I noticed in that seminar was that every single company there that was, $20 million, $50 million companies was focused on one product, and or maybe even two, but two at the very most. And what that means is that they can, one, sustain a business, they can scale very quickly because it's more cookie cutter. But three, they're professional at what they do. The biggest issue that we had with our in-home commission sales team is that we sold everything. We believed if you go out for a roof and you're great at that, you can figure out a way to sell them a pool if the customer loves you. And that wasn't very sustainable because you would have salespeople that would go out that would have 20% closing rates on kitchen remodels and then 75% on roofing. They just weren't an absolute professional in every single product. So after I came back from that seminar, I decided to put that business up for sale. I told myself that if I ever get back into the home service space, I want to build a model that's focused primarily on the customer. But two, I really want to get rid of that in-home commission sales model, right? That was, for me, just dealing with in-home commission sales guys for almost 40 years was a business in its own. So 2019 launched Bumble Roofing, with the main value in mind being the customer experience. Our mission was all about the customer, affordable roofing, quality product, and an easy process. So we've done that by implementing tech and just an overall great experience. Like, it's not with us, and we can get into this a little bit later on. It's not just installing a roof and installing a great product. We live in a day and age where it's important for organizations to build raving fans. And I really feel like we've done that over here with Bumble. So when I first launched, my plan was to build the next big household roofing name on my own. About 2 years into that, I realized that that's not very possible on my own. I also don't have the capital to expand that quickly. So we became one of the biggest residential roofers in Southern California. I think as of last year, we're probably the third largest residential roofing installer in Los Angeles County. And about 2 years into it, I started looking into franchising. A buddy of mine introduced me, to the franchising world. Before that, I thought franchising was just your fast food joints, your Five Guys, your Subways. I had no idea that home services can become a franchise, and that I can take what I've built and help other people succeed and build on those same dreams and goals. So about 2 years into that, as I mentioned, started looking to franchising. The broker who helps facilitate the acquisition of my last business actually contacted me just to catch up. I told him what's going on. He said, hey, if I can, bring you in a partner that can potentially help you grow and fulfill that dream and mission that you have with making Bumble the leading roofing household name in the US, is that something you'd be interested in? So Immediately I said yes, gave him about 90 days to go to work. And, he brought over a bunch of different private equity companies, some private buyers as well. And for me, as you guys know, since you dealt with Empower in the past, for me, the team at Empower Brands was really love at first sight. I knew that with their experience, they can take Bumble to that next level fairly quickly. But two, which was the biggest deciding factor for me, was the type of people that we're working with and the culture that they built over there. They're all about, which isn't what I knew my entire career, they're all about people over profits. Most of the companies, as I mentioned, growing up in the home service and commercial service space, was profits over people. And I really see that, from the day I made that decision up until, now about 7 or 8 months later, since we were acquired by Empower, I see that through thick and thin. It's a trickle down effect all the way from the CEO, Scott Zide, down to your, to the marketing team, support team. Everybody there has one mission. And, obviously, yes, the mission is for everybody to make money, but the main mission is to make sure that everybody succeeds and everybody's supported.
So I want to back up really quickly. Yeah. There's two things that stood out to me on our call. One of them was, even though, you kind of alluded to the fact that you guys grew up with everything, you did work though in your dad's warehouse, right? You did work and you were around entrepreneurship. And I don't know if you use that term work lightly, but because you're smiling. But so tell us a little about that early exposure to entrepreneurship. And did you ever get the bug, or was it just you were there because your dad wanted you there?
Yeah, so I obviously have to be honest, because my dad's probably going to watch this video later on. I would work because my dad would make me work. Okay. Most of the time when he wasn't watching, I was falling asleep in an empty office under a desk. Kudos to my dad, right? Like I think the work ethic subconsciously came from him. I never really saw it full on growing up. But my dad would be up, his warehouse was about 2.5 hours away from where we live without traffic. So he was up at 4:30, 5 a.m., already leaving the house, not getting back till late nights. And, I realized when my family did lose everything that, hey, if I want the good things in life, if I want to be able to eventually support a family, that's what it takes. The hard work, the dedication, the drive, and that no matter what, you got to wake up in the morning, you got to get it done. That's what it's going to take. So yes, although I did work and I was down there with the employees pre-packing boxes and tagging boxes and taping boxes and, packing out semi-trailers. I absolutely hated everything, every single waking moment of that. But now that I look back at it, like I thank God every single day that he put me through that.
That was modeled for you. Yeah. So I think you're right. Subconsciously it was sinking in, and you had the wherewithal to, because not everybody reacts the way that you do to those circumstances. You went out and got after it. Not everybody does that. The other thing that stood out to me, and this is like small, but I think so many independent entrepreneurs learn so many lessons along the way. And I think all those little lessons are very important. One thing that was very interesting to me that you said about when you went to this big seminar with all these other successful companies, not only were they doing only one or two things, the things they were doing got them in and out of the house very quickly. And you guys were kind of camping out, right? Like, so you're doing these big projects, you're there for months and months and months. So I think that was another big aha that I wanted to make sure that we went back and talked about, because I thought that was important too.
Yeah. So, growing up in the industry, like my sales managers, partners that I had, even as a salesperson, you believe that you sell this huge project, whether it be a room addition, kitchen remodel, or a new construction, you're bringing in all this money. Well, one, yes, you are, but it's over a long period of time. So although, a $50,000, $100,000 commission sounds nice, you're now spending the next 12 to 18 months with that specific customer. So you break that down, with all the driving and the time that you're spending, that becomes very hectic. Now, two, the chances of running into issues, they get much larger as the project becomes larger and as the project becomes longer. When you start building that relationship and you're now basically married to the customer and you're in their home every single day, things can go wrong very, very quickly. So after visiting that seminar, the longest product that a company out there was staying in house was 2-week bathroom remodels. Everybody else, it was windows, siding, roofing, driveways, like quick in and out jobs where, you could create a volume-based business. You can still make your customers happy. But you're in and out and you're on to the next project. And that's really, when I was thinking in late 2018, what I wanted to do next, I didn't know just yet that it was roofing, but I told myself it has to be a product where within a week to 2 weeks, we're out of that house completely.
Good. Yeah, that's interesting. I thought it was interesting too that when you came back from that seminar, you just decided to sell your company. So you didn't try to change the business model. You just decided to sell and go do something else. So you started this roofing company. And tell us how you came up with the name Bumble Roofing.
Yeah, so that's actually a funny story. One, I believe in today's day and age, business in general is a vehicle to be able to do something bigger. So anytime I have any idea or any business that I've ever worked on, I believe in giving back, not just for your local community, but something much bigger. So with my last business, being that I think it's important to use your business as a vehicle for giving back, we gave back to a nonprofit called Homes for Our Troops, which helped build homes for post 9/11 disabled veterans. Now, when I was launching and thinking about what I wanted to do with the roofing business and what brand I wanted to build, I really wanted to build a fuzzy brand, give people a good feeling with who they're working with. So I wanted to have a mascot behind it, and what better mascot to have, than an animal, and just make it animated and make it cute and make it fuzzy. So as I'm thinking about what animals I want to use, the first choice was actually a kangaroo, just because kangaroo and roofing kind of sound alike. So it was actually going to be called Kangaroofing. But after about 15 minutes of just really thinking about it and not really seeing how that mission of giving back to kangaroos and on a continent, 15 hours away from us, really made sense. I started thinking more, and I really wanted to figure out something that I can give back to here and now that will really make a big difference. So after doing some research, I started seeing that our bees are on the verge of extinction. For those who may or may not know, bees are our number one pollinators. About 40% of the food that we eat today is due to the pollination of bees. And without bees, the world that we live in today, if it even were to exist, would not be the same. So I decided to touch on that, and that's where the name Bumble Roofing came up with, where I came up with the name Bumble Roofing. And I just felt like we could build a great brand around that, a great story around that. So for every single roof that we replace, we do work with a nonprofit called the Xerxes Society that helps save our most important pollinators. So every time we replace a roof, we give back on behalf of that customer. So they receive a little gift box with a bunch of little merch. But the coolest part of that whole gift box is the single serve honeycomb that we put in there. So we partnered up with a company called Pass the Honey, who makes single serve honeycombs. And they get it in this cool little branded box, which is like a collab between us and Pass the Honey. And the customer just, again, that's what I was speaking about it before. Once a customer sees that, they become a raving fan. Those are the things customers remember. The service part, yes, customers remember that too. Customers remember the quality, they remember the product, which is equally as important. But eventually, people forget that, right? Eventually, 2 years, 3 years down the road, when a cousin or a friend or a neighbor may need a roof, they may not remember Joe's and Sons Roofing, right? Because they just installed a good roof. They don't know what their phone number is. They don't know where to find them and how to think about that. But Bumble is just an easy, catchy name. And again, when we provide that experience all the way from landing on our website to speaking to somebody at our contact center, all the way down to receiving the warranty and gift package, I think that plays a huge role in the customer becoming a raving fan. And that's the most important thing for us. So again, Bumble was founded on just giving back to our pollinators and really just building an experience and brand around that. We play a lot with the branding. So originally it was supposed to be roofing and a buzz, but I didn't think that really aligned with what we want to do. So that turned into our slogan being roofing the easy way. But you'll notice like throughout doing business with Bumble Roofing that, we play on a bunch of different bee puns throughout everything we do. So, sting-free process. Instead of having a good, better, and best package, we call it our honey hive and queen bee. So just little fun things that make make our customers remember who we are.
Definitely memorable. So I have a random question for you about your branding. I love your little avatar on your signature. So does everybody have a little avatar with the antenna?
Yep. Every single employee at our LA location gets their own bee avatar. We basically take a picture of them and we bumblify them, as we like to call it. And then we're now doing that with our franchisees too. So, we recently signed on our first franchisee out in Philadelphia, and the first thing that they receive in an email is their little bumblebee avatars.
Aww,
it's fun.
That's cute.
I love
again,
it.
it goes back to that fuzzy feeling, right? And to remembering who you're working with.
Well, and it's such an important thing that you're doing and bringing awareness to. So that's awesome, because it's easy to forget about that, but without them, we wouldn't have any food to eat. So, yay for the pollinators.
Yeah. Yeah. So, also just to expand on that whole piece and the customer service, I like it because you mentioned not remembering the roofer.
Yeah.
And, a roof is something we all need, but we don't think about it every day. We're not oohing and awing over our roof. So there needs to be some memorable factor for the next time you need one. I mean, we're here in Texas and we have to replace our roofs a lot more than other people across the country. And so it's nice to be top of mind when that need comes along. So you talked about being an independent business and then deciding to be a franchise, and you referenced Empower Brands. So they are your parent company that acquired your company, and it was through that process that you evolved into a franchise. Is that correct? Or had you already? Okay. So I want to make sure. So what have been some of the differences for you from running your own business to now being part of Empower Brands and being a franchise? You said you just signed your first franchisee. So share with us a little bit about that transition.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, there's been, we could talk for the next 12 hours about the transitions and moving from small business to corporate world and really just taking, all the existing systems and building on that and making them better. But for me personally, the biggest thing is that before I was just working for myself, meaning if I don't succeed, then I don't succeed, right? Like I still have to drive and I for the past, God, as long as I can remember, I still wake up in the morning and I still have that drive and I still have that responsibility. But now that we're starting to launch these locations and we have other people that are believing in us, this is when I lose sleep at night. Like this is where I'm now working, I went from working 12, 14-hour days. Now I'm working 16, 18, 20-hour days sometimes, because although I succeeded and although I know the company-owned location is in great hands, I now need to make sure that every franchisee that believed in me, that believed in Bumble, that believes in Empower will succeed. And I think for me, that's the biggest change, that I now have, again, really all these people that believe in what we do and what we say. And, we need to make sure that they're going to succeed. So I'm not, franchising is fairly new to me. So I don't want to talk about what else is out there because I really do not know. But for me as a brand president, like I'm bootstrapping this entire thing. Yeah, we have Empower behind us and we have the marketing and IT and software team. And we just brought on an operations manager for this concept. And there's a lot of support. But I think getting support from somebody who's been on the ground level, like myself, like my first year in this business, I didn't have a marketing team. I didn't have software. I was figuring it out on my own. I got my feet wet every single day. I went through sleepless nights. I was so stressed out because I didn't know how to, where I'm going to get my leads from. Right. So, yes, over the span of a year and a half, that's definitely calmed down. But God, I wish I had that support from the beginning. But again, having that support as a franchisee from somebody who's founded a business and operated it day in and day out and knows the how to do things the right way and knows about the things that can potentially go wrong and hopefully save you from doing those things wrong and hopefully ensuring your success. I think that's one of the biggest transitions that I've made, in making sure these people that are signing up, like they're family to me now, right? Like they believed in my vision, and it's so important for me for them to succeed.
Well, and you make a really good point, because these people that are believing in you and signing up with you are benefiting from all the learnings, all the mistakes you made, all the things that you did right. Like, this comes with years and years and years of backstory. So I think that's the important thing behind franchising is, somebody interviewed me one time and we were talking about, he was an independent business owner and he was interviewing me about franchising, and he was talking about all of his mistakes, and he referred to it as tuition because, it's just like going to school and learning. It's expensive and you pay. And that's kind of how I think of the franchise fee. Mm-hmm. You're paying for the secret sauce and the recipe, because somebody has actually figured out the recipe that works, and you could spend the next 10, 15 years trying to figure it out on your own, or you could just take something that's all packaged up in a bow for you and run with it.
Yeah, I want to touch on that, because if I were able to pay the franchise fee up front and have all that support, I would have paid less than all the money I spent for, figuring things out along the way, whether it be software, legal, lead generation, marketing, like you name it, right? Like even the first car I bought, I bought a used old beat up truck, which was breaking down on a weekly basis. Like a small business owner that doesn't know anything, I decided not to get an insurance plan for the guy driving it. It was totaled within a few months, So just all those little things is, if I had that support from the beginning and knowing that, hey, I could just put up this, now that I understand how a small business works, that I can just put up this money and all this is taken care of. And I just got to go out and work every day and follow the systems and follow the processes, and my chances of success are much larger. I would have definitely done that.
Well, with all that said, because you just made a really good point, if somebody, I think a lot of people that are looking to start businesses want to be mentored by those that have gone before them, because you've learned a lot, right? There's wisdom in everything that you're talking about. So if somebody approached you and said, hey, David, I know you've owned a business, now you've become a franchisor, I'm just thinking about getting started. Is there a bit of information or advice that you would give that person?
Yeah. So, wow. I think first and foremost, build a business plan. No matter what you do, no matter what industry you get in, whether it's an established franchise brand, a non-established franchise brand, or just a complete new idea that you want to start on your own, you want to make sure you have a plan in place and that for the most part, where you're headed. I think another big one, which is what's been very successful for us, is focus on the customer. Don't focus on your pocket. Eventually that will come. Mm-hmm. If you're focusing on the customer. Third, which you just mentioned, is get a mentor, right? Like I never really had a mentor. I guess you could say my dad was, more of a fatherly figure, but I guess, I use him as a mentor a lot when it comes to business advice. But going into a new field like roofing, like I couldn't go to my dad. So having a mentor is the third one. But I think the biggest one that's worked very, very well for me is making quick but smart decisions. So making smart decisions very, very quickly and really never looking back. Like for me, like when I do something, success is like, I have tunnel vision. Success is the only way. Like you're gonna have, it's a roller coaster. Owning any business, whether it's an established franchise brand or not, you're gonna have your days where you're on top of the world and you're like, wow, like I'm so glad I did this. And you're gonna have days where you want to jump off a balcony. at the end of the day, the goal is to be in an upward trajectory, kind of like the stock market. You're going to have days in the stock market where they're very, very bad, and you're going to have days where are very, very good. But the goal is to continue to be in an upward trajectory. And I think if you look back and have regrets on those bad days, that's what makes a lot of people fall apart. I'm sure most people have seen that, that photo of one guy that's digging, and he gives up right before he's about to get to this huge, huge bunch of diamonds. And then you have, and then he says, I give up, and he's right there. And then you have the other guy right below him who's not giving up, and he made it there, right? So I think it's just getting out of your head, and if you have that business plan in place, if you're focusing on the customer and you have a mentor that's there to coach you all the time and get you through those dark times, I think really success at the end of the day is the only mission and the only outcome that you'll get to if you're doing things the right way.
Excellent advice. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, David, if somebody wanted to reach you, what would be the best way for them to find you or Bumble Roofing?
Yeah. So my email is david@bumbleroofing.com. You can also reach me at my cell, 818-633-8790. There's plenty of other people on our team. You could if you're looking to potentially owning a franchise for Bumble Roofing, you can visit us either at bumbleroofing.com or bumbleroofingfranchising.com. And of course, on Empower Brands website, which is empowerbrands.com as well.
Great. Thank you, David. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day and sharing your story and your learnings with us. For those of you listening, thanks for tuning in. Please follow us on LinkedIn. I'm Roxanne Rapske, Rapske, Sara Waskow, Sara with no H, Waskow. You can also find us on frannet.com and on our YouTube channel at Frannet of Dallas, Fort Worth, and Oklahoma. Lastly, any of the podcasting platforms host Unpredicted Entrepreneur, and you can follow us there. Thank you.
Bye-bye.